tough act to follow, I must say, and I'm usually walk around all of the stage, but I was told to stay in this area for the camera, so I'll do my best. I'm going to take you on a little detour from Java today and talk to you about accessibility and why I need all of the people here on this whole conference, but especially everybody who took time and is in this room today to get accessibility better than we are currently doing it on web. I'll start with a little story about myself, if the clicker cooperates. Otherwise, I will do it the old-fashioned way. Nothing's working. Oh, guys. 16 months ago, I gave birth to a beautiful daughter in this hospital. It's the hospital near me in my region. And as you can see, it's not accessible. Of course, this was 100 years ago, and they tore down the building and rebuilt the hospital to what it is right now. But this was the hospital that my parents had to go to. And when you just look at the front door that you can see, you will see steps. So when you try to enter here with a bad leg or in a wheelchair, because I had to be rolled out with a wheelchair when I gave birth, I couldn't use this front door. The hospital looks like this now. And as you can see, it has a ramp and it has stairs, so it's way more accessible. And this is, of course, a very real-world scenario. But in tech, this is still our current day-to-day. And we want to go to this. In architecture, you have something that's called inclusive design, and I will show you the text of it. But the most important thing is highlighted here. So it's about you want to make it accessible for everyone, right? So in the case of the hospital, everybody has to enter it. And in case of our applications, everybody should be able to use it. And 100% accessibility is a dream. You can't reach everyone. So the most important part of this text is as many people as reasonably possible. So let's do our best to just reach as many people as possible. I usually divide accessibility into 3 categories. Microsoft does it a certain way. I do it slightly different. And I have a little bit of a focus for today, which I will get into in a moment. The first group is age. So when you want to make something for everybody, you have to think about age. People over 40 start losing their eyesight, so they might have to zoom in a little bit more, which automatically means that you have less screen real estate. And people above 65 will start have some cognitive deterioration and some audio issues. So if you see this graph over here, more than half of the population in the Netherlands currently is above 40. So you might say, oh, it's not a problem. But with the whole aging in the whole world organization, age is a very big factor that we have to take into account when we develop anything, really. And then we'll go to the next 2, which is the permanent disabilities and the temporary disabilities. Because everybody, of course, has something in their mind about disabilities. And the most things that you hear, oh yeah, people that are blind, they can't see the screen, they have to use certain things. People that are deaf, they can't hear what's on YouTube when they don't have any subtitles. People in a wheelchair, those are the more visual things that most people think about when you're talking about disabilities. But of course, you also have the chromosomal things you are born with, like Down syndrome. And for this group, it's the most interesting part, neurodiversity. Because we work in tech, I just want to see a raise of hands. And just keep your hand up until I get to a percentage that you think is correct. So, in tech, we have neurodiversity. Who thinks it's more than 10% of people in tech who have some form of neurodiversity? More than 20%. 30? Hands are going down. 40%? only a few hands left, 50%. People who have their hand up are correct. We are currently around 50%, according to the Tech Talent Charter that was published this year. That does an annual diversity in tech report. So about half of the people working in tech have some kind of neurodiversity, me included. I have dyslexia, it's a type of neurodiversity. ADHD, autism, all of those things you can take into account. And that will become a little bit more interesting in the second half of this presentation. You also have temporary disabilities, so things that are currently an issue but won't be an issue later. Think about being a young parent, walking around with your child, only having one hand available. Maybe you broke your dominant hand, and all of a sudden you can't type like you used to type anymore, and you have to say to a junior in your team, please just type out what I'm telling you right now, because I can't. But also think about people coming into the Netherlands who maybe are not used to the Dutch language yet and still have to learn it, go to school. They also have to navigate our web ecosystem, especially the government. You can't really get around those people. Quick introduction, keep in mind, and I always like to say, look around in your direct environment. There must be somebody in your life that has some of these disabilities that you can really keep in mind when you program. For me, it's my dad. He's colorblind, and he has some issues with contrasting, and also issues with connecting the washing machine correctly without putting the whole thing under electricity. So we like to do some things for him around the house just to make sure that it doesn't burn out. But there must be some people in your life that experience this that you can keep as some sort of motivation. I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Ramona. I work at Team Rockstars IT, as you can see from my shirt. And I like to talk about inclusivity and accessibility, and that's why I'm here today. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you are interested in these topics. We're on a web conference today, or a development conference today, I wanted to say. So most people say, okay, how can I code stuff? That's why I'm here. How can I fix this in code? You can look at the WCAG guidelines, and I said the G and guidelines, but still. These will help you. But this is more interesting for front-end developers. Are there any people in the room who consider themselves either front-enders or full-stack developers? Yes, okay. If you haven't worked with this yet, know that there's going to be legislations that force you to work with this, starting from 2025. And a good starting point for these guidelines is this link I am showing on screen right now. So it's the allyproject.com/checklist. And when you go to this website, and I see some people taking pictures, so I'll keep it up a little bit, you will see this. And it's a very nice checklist. You can check it off, go through your code, and if you adhere to this, you probably at least adhere to the new legislations that you have to adhere to. But there are other things you can do, especially if you are not a front-end developer or don't focus your time as much to front-end development. And I like to use this meme for that. You might recognize this, right? Hey, the back-end developer in the team says, are we doing anything with accessibility? He points to the front-end developer. Oh, you must know about it. You do stuff with this. Front-end developer points to the UX UI designers. Yeah, but they design things with that in mind, so it should be fine. The UX designer points to the PO, but the PO said it's not on the high priority list for this quarter, so we left it out. And then the PO points towards management, but management said we don't have money for it, so it's not in there. Yeah, it just keeps on going and gets further away and further away and further away from the development team. But let me tell you that you got the power to change this. It takes not that much time to make a small improvement. And a small improvement can mean the world to somebody else. So I'm telling you, if you don't even touch front end, please talk about it. Share it with your team. Tell them, hey, are we doing something about this? And even if you are not in a cross-functional team and you only work with back-end developers, there's still some accessibility you can think of. Have you ever seen a picture like this? I mean, this is the reason why we have very big screens, right? So our Java classes fit on the screen. So, I mean, why would we write a fish class if we can write something way more abstract that has fins and gills? This is one of the accessibility issues. If you write code, it gets read more than when you write it, right? You write it once, but people might read it 10, 20, 30, 100 times. So try to write it so other people can understand it. And I know, I was one of these people who thought, I don't want to use comments. As long as my names make sense, I don't need them. But you will do some people a large favor if you make stuff readable. And if that means that you have to put in a comment, please put in a comment. Because people like me with dyslexia, or people that are coming from all different countries, because we're a very multicultural land, right? We work with people from India, Croatia, Greece, England, and we all have a different mother tongue. But we all need to understand the same code, and it's usually English. So if we keep our code simple and readable, that's also a very big accessibility improvement, even if you don't touch the front end. So I want to send you home with share, talk about this, keep your code simple. And then hopefully in the future, I have to think about another topic to talk about at conferences, because accessibility shouldn't be a problem anymore. If you all help me out, we can get to a beautiful, beautiful, accessible future.